Trump helped shine a light on these people. Look at this progression. May of 2018, there is no deep state. Former intelligence directors slam Trump's conspiracy theory. Then in 2019, they're like, well, there is no deep state, but maybe there should be. 2022, Daily Beast. You're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. So it went from there is no deep state to there is no deep state, but there should be, to you're going to miss the deep state when it's gone. That wouldn't have happened without Trump, period. It's not uncommon for Ukrainians, the same Ukraine that we were celebrating on 60 Minutes, and we want to send all this money to, all the black identitarians, all the black cabal in DC is like fully on board with. Forget about the Yahtzees and all that kind of stuff. Just from this standpoint, it's not uncommon for Ukrainians to refer to African Americans as N-word. Volunteers of color may be called a monkey, or see children's game with blackface. This is the country you're supporting. This is the culture you support. You put a Ukrainian flag out. A lot of y'all probably never even had an American flag in your bio before. You're probably triggered by it. Nothing like supporting a country that would look at you as N-word and a monkey. Y'all supporting some crazy stuff, man. Y'all are supporting some crazy stuff. Sound check. You probably have Taiwan flags in your bio right now, like the CIA agent Vosh, allegedly. And same. What is good? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. Rural America is beautiful. Taking some time with the family. We are in rural parts of this country. Funny story, we went to see Mount Rushmore. And the only presidents my son knows are Donald Trump and Joe Biden. So I asked him, who did you see on Mount Rushmore? My son says Joe Biden, and I'm dying of laughter. And I'm like, no, son, he didn't make it on there, and not unless you're doing worst of all time would he make a Mount Rushmore. But I love rural America, peaceful. If you don't bother people, they don't bother you. Something to think about as things get crazier in our world. Take care. Babylon B got locked out of Twitter for misgendering somebody. But if race and gender are both social constructs, and Candace Owens, for example, views herself as a black woman, why does Twitter allow tweets that call her white? In fact, a white supremacist. Is Twitter racist? It's very possible that Disney could have said, you know what? We want to do more representation, but at the same time, we're not going to demonize DeSantis. We're not going to demonize this bill, and we're not going to demonize fellow citizens who support the bill. You know, that is a possibility. That's not what they're doing. They're coming out, and not in this clip here, but they're coming out very strongly against the bill. Instead of saying, hey, we don't have any problem. Here's what we do at Disney. We create heartwarming stories. And I see a divide in our country. And maybe we can use Disney as a platform to create heartwarming stories with representation that, I don't know, maybe brings us together for a couple hours to watch a movie. Why isn't that a possibility? It is a possibility. And because they didn't do that, it makes me wonder why. So we have some comments in the chat. Let me take a break, read some comments on the reparations. Reparations are a fail, Casual Goat says. Stop focusing on the black community and stop putting them down. Reparations could include dropping CRT in cities. These are the things that keep black people down. Amen.
Ultra MAGA, Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA. Ultra MAGA.
Ultra MAGA.
Who came up with this phrase Ultra MAGA? Why the need to kick it up a notch?
Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. It doesn't matter if you're left, right, or libertarian. They would say Comic Dave Smith is Ultra MAGA. They would say Robbie the Fire Bernstein is Ultra MAGA. They're libertarians. They would say Rand Paul. Kim Iverson, guess what? You're Ultra MAGA. Congratulations. Join the club. It will be fun. You'll feel better. Embrace it. I'll make a Kim Iverson branded Ultra MAGA shirt for you. MAGA doesn't mean what it used to mean. Embrace the MAGA. Lisa, yes, ma'am. Nico House, one of my favorite YouTubers and Fiorella and Pasta and peasant journalists, you too, you're not exempt. You're ultra MAGA. Will Cormier, you're ultra MAGA, friend of show. We'll be starting soon. Mic check, sound check. What's up? What's good? DeSantis and woke DAs are the topic. River, you're ultra MAGA. Congratulations, whether you liked it or not. If you don't agree with the Disinformation Governance Board, you are ultra MAGA, whether you like it or not. Welcome to the club. Embrace it. Have fun with it. This week in a Thursday interview, Wheeler, the head of this PAC that lied, conceded that it was wrong when they insisted this photo of another woman in a bed was her. That was the photo with the woman that looked like she came out the 70s in Las Vegas. It was wrong when they claimed Boebert initially failed to disclose a campaign contribution from Ted Cruz. It was wrong when they suggested Cruz made a big contribution to Boebert's campaign immediately after she started running. It was wrong when they got the date of her accident wrong. It was off. And it was wrong when they said she had an abortion in the fall of 2004 with the most generous interpretation that would only give her 6 months before you said she had an abortion and when she gave birth to her son. Something that would take 2 seconds to verify. Is this online gender-based harassment? Would this fall under the purview of this group, Ms. Kamala Harris? I demand an answer. They are saying because America started with British colonizers coming here with African slaves, that everything, the Declaration of Independence, the founding of the country, the Constitution. Remember, the Constitution is sort of trash.
Some will say, okay, so are you arguing for throwing out the Constitution? Should the Constitution be thrown out? What do we do?
The Constitution is kind of trash.
Spider sense start tingling.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
What did you say, nigga?
It was written by slavers and colonists and white people who were willing to make deals with slavers and colonists.
What did you say? It's what?
It's kind of trash.
Trash.
It was
Spider sense start tingling.
They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that? They said it's a comic book for hate groups. What's your reaction to that?
It's to be expected. There's a lot of things that are wrong with this industry. It's not just with the content per se. Even the economic model is very archaic.
Yeah, I dreamed of being a comic book artist since I was a little boy, and I worked my way up. It was so hard. I made it to DC Comics, made it to Superman. My little boy dream came true. They made him woke. They got rid of his American citizenship. They said that truth, justice, and the American way doesn't matter. So you guys reported on it in October. I famously walked off the book, and that was a big deal. And soon after, I met up with Eric, and we started working on ISOM together. And I also made another book with another Warner Brothers DC Comics veteran, David Williams, and we created Truth, Justice, American Way as our love letter to like your classic Avengers, Superman, Batman kind of stories. So that's going on too, and working on ISOM with Eric has been amazing.
But I also come from escaped slaves, okay? The people who weren't going to live under tyranny. I also come from a long line of civil rights activists, people who stand up when it's time to stand up, and they say, no more, I'm not going to kiss the ring, I'm not going to bend the knee, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's the spirit that we have to have right now, and I definitely have it, and I want to spread it to you.
What is good? Cyrus here. Cyrus here, stuck in the middle. What's up? Yo! Pop it off in the chat. Ryan, what's good? Glad you could stop by. Is that... That's right. I'm gonna have to tell I'm gonna have to email River. Are you talking about River? I'm gonna have to email River. No, she's I think she's mixed. She's not white, Ryan. Ryan was like, is that a white lady talking about coming from slaves? Now, I did, manipulate the video because I, just playing with the visualization of it. But no, she's not. Her story is so interesting. I did a video with her. I got to get her back on the channel. I can re-upload clips from it. She is really talented. You can find that video. You can search on the channel on Let's Build. She is amazing. Amazing. That's one of my favorite clips I have ever heard, period, on any radio show or podcast. But she's just a great writer, comedian type, she's good. But she's mixed. She came from, it's very interesting, her background. In that edit I edited out, and what he's talking about is that piece from River here, I think, at the end. River has been on the channel before. Let me bring that up, actually. And now I will never forget when I saw her do that upload. Shine a light on these. So he's talking about River right here. To my knowledge, I have to listen to it again. I talked with her. She comes from a background of like revolutionary founding fathers and slaves mixed. I shouldn't have edited that out. I don't know why. I don't have that in this clip. I should redo it. That's what makes that so interesting. Now, I don't know how many people have that.
Going on too, and working on ISOM with Eric has been amazing.
But I also come from escaped slaves.
So right before she said that, she said, I come from like revolutionary, I think, or founding fathers or something, like probably I'm guessing the white side and maybe and the black side. So my wife is white, but she's Polish German. So this is something else. So she's got the blood coursing through her veins of both like incredibly passionate and principled and fighters and survivors when you talk about slaves and the founding fathers or the revolutionary Americans that are now deemed terrorists by our own, allegedly by our own FBI. What a heck of a story she is.
Also come from escaped slaves, okay? The people who weren't going to live under tyranny. I also come from a long line of civil rights activists, people who stand up when it's time to stand up and they say, no more, I'm not going to kiss the ring, I'm not going to bend the knee, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. That's the spirit that we have to have right now. And I definitely have it, and I want to spread it to you.
That whole live she did, or I don't know if it was a live, but it was on her phone around the pandemic, was unbelievable. Search right, left of center. And her name is River. I'll put a link to the channel in the chat. I highly, highly recommend her channel. Thanks for stopping by. Metalopoly is able to stop by. I hope you mentioned Matt Walsh's tweet about white slaves. Triggered a lot of people this week. I actually replied to it. I had not planned on bringing it up, but it is, I have no problem getting into it. I do want to, because I saw Maj Touré kind of replied, and then Matt did a video and replied to him. So let me show the tweet here, before we get into the main topic, which is DeSantis. But I actually replied to the Matt Walsh tweet, the initial tweet, and I think it was a great topic to bring up. I've brought that up many a times. Coming from an account that big, that's going to trigger people. And a lot of people don't know they really don't know the history. I talked about that recently with this video, this Woman King, this movie that's coming out. So I literally just talked about that. But Matt Walsh was talking about, let me search it real quick and then share it. And then we'll get into DeSantis. But, and yeah, a lot of people were replying. I'm not going to get into a detailed, people were getting into the details of the history, which is great. I think I got to give Matt Walsh credit. Whether you agree with him or not, he is getting into discussions that are worth having. What is a woman is worth having. This discussion here brought up by Metalopoly, Thank you, Metalopoly. Matt Walsh tweeted the other day, well over 1 million whites were enslaved in North Africa between the 16th and 19th centuries, most of them abducted and sold by Muslim pirates. Africans were raiding Europe for slaves for hundreds of years. The school system has totally erased this fact from history. It's a simple tweet, and there's no lies detected here. I mean, these are facts. There's not one lie here. I don't know why people are triggered on it, why you would be. Matt said, of course, white people were enslaved in other parts of Africa too. There was slavery within Britain and the United States. If you were captured, you could have been, like in war times, you could have been enslaved. Of course, white people were enslaved in other parts of Africa too and across the world for centuries, including in North America, where white servants were shipped to the colonies by the thousands. Slavery in America didn't begin in 1619. White children were being kidnapped and sold into servitude in the colonies before that. And of course, slavery existed in the Americas for hundreds of years prior to Europeans ever setting foot here. Indian tribes all practiced slavery. Life was savage. Slavery persisted in non-Western countries long after it had been abolished in the West. It still exists today. I was chatting with people on Twitter. I'm like, how many of your products that you use right now, we've got products all over out the yin-yang out of here, how many of them were made by either very poorly paid people or literally enslaved people? It's hard to know. We don't know. Are the Uyghurs in China enslaved? They say they're not. Some people say they are. We know there's slavery right now going on in Nigeria. There's literal slavery still right now to this day. Slavery was, and actually, I think I read a stat that there's more slavery now than there was back then. Slavery was an accepted institution of in Africa and Asia for millennia, and it seems to have never occurred to any of these societies that there might be something wrong with the practice. In my opinion, they knew it was wrong, but that was just life. Like when you conquer another, they would conquer each other, whether it was Native Americans or Europeans or whoever. They would conquer an area and a territory separate from slavery, and they would just raid the village. That included the women too. They knew that was wrong. You know what's right and you know what's wrong. Life was just savage. And now I am soft, we are soft, because stuff like that doesn't pop off. I've never had to use a weapon. I've never had to learn how to fight. But that doesn't mean life wasn't like that before. I would have never survived back then. I wouldn't be pudgy. I'd be ready for battle at any second. Or you'd be the weak link and your own tribe would purge you. We can't have somebody running around here who's pudgy, can't run a mile. Tribe could run up on us at nighttime and then enslave us and take our women and do whatever. I don't know how this is. I did not plan on doing this, Metalopoly, but let's do it. And of course, the African slave trade was mostly furnished by Africans capturing other Africans and selling them into bondage. The African slave trade was abolished by the West, not by Africa. Slavery remained legal in parts of Africa as well until the 20th century, and it still is in some parts today. I replied to, I think my reply came off his original tweet, so I can show you where I replied to this a few days ago. Or maybe I can't find it. Oh, Andy No said this is true. Andy No does not chime in and say it's true if it's not. Andy No is he picks his spots. He's very precise with how he picks his spots. I'm just trying to find my tweet. Twitter is hard sometimes. It's hard to find what I can just say what I basically said. One thing that I said is the 1619, just to be clear, not that Matt wasn't, I just wanted to make it crystal clear, America didn't exist as we know it. We wouldn't call like America as we call it today in 1619. That was British slavery. So that wasn't even American slavery. Let me look. I think I brought it up in 1619 here. And then I said, I think Matt would agree here. America as we use it now didn't exist in 1619. U.S. slavery began in 1776. It was going on before then, but we didn't become a country until then. And it ended in 1865. The Constitution laid the path to make it illegal. It was carried over from the past. It could only end gradually and with war. You can't just go cold turkey and just say slavery's done, boom, it's over. So some people tried to use this as a way to say, hey, these founding fathers are awful. And so somebody replied to me with the name Abe Lincoln, said, look, I'll dumb it. They're talking to me. Look, I'll dumb it down for you. Slavery bad. Get it? Like, who argues that slavery is good? I've never even heard anybody argue that. Straw man. People who owned slaves were villains, including a lot of our founding fathers who owned slaves. And Metalopoly, this is actually a good topic to slide on into the main topic of DeSantis, believe it or not. Look at what this is. This is critical theory type stuff in practice. The founding fathers were villains, so everything stemming that they did was villainous. The Constitution is something created by villains, so it's something that should be lived. It's a living Constitution. Living Constitution, all that is a fancy term for we're taking away your rights. And then we have different things we can do, like planting these woke DAs into different parts of the country and having them ignore laws. And that's where DeSantis stepped in. But I came over the top on it with a quote tweet, and I said, I want to make sure that that's clear. They think this is history. It's not history what he just said. Even the slavery is bad, even though we know that's pretty much a fact because 99% of people would agree, but that's an opinion. That's not history. But when you talk about the founding fathers as villains, that's the same reason Thomas Jefferson got yankums out of the New York City Hall. That's opinion. So I said, no, they were not villains based on that. I don't know, Thomas Jefferson, and the other founding fathers I don't know them personally, but based on just slavery, no, that does not make them villains. They were flawed people who laid the groundwork to eliminate it. Like the 3/5 a person, I think people got that misconstrued. What they wanted to do was make sure that the South didn't have too much electoral college power. They didn't want them to have too much voting power. How do you end slavery if you are counting the people that you're enslaving as a part of your population, and then they don't get a say in it, only the owners do, basically? That would only ensure that it would never go. Now, obviously, there was a war, but the 3/5 a person, people misunderstood that. That was actually in place to help plant the seeds to end it. They laid the groundworks and other ways, too, in the Constitution. All men are to be created equal. I think they put that in there on purpose to lay the groundwork to end slavery. But whatever you want to think about that, we are all flawed. That's why I believe in God, and I believe in sin, and I believe that every human being is flawed. So don't look at them and think they're flawed when you might have a product that is made from slave labor right now. The old saying, you point a finger, you might have some pointing back right at you. So Metalopoly, you got me kind of fired up real quick. What's good? What is good? I am so hyped. Eric Smith, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, he agrees. So I just want to make sure that I'm not the only one out there saying this. Eric Smith, really bright, great friend of show, just like Metalopoly and everybody else. Ryan. Dems purposely misconstrued 3/5 compromise on purpose. And I grew up for many years not understanding that. But yeah, I actually think this is a pertinent topic as we get into DeSantis. But before we get into DeSantis, let's do a little toast to Carrie Lake officially winning. She won every single county in Arizona. Now, let's not get into too much what happened over there. I mean, it's disastrous. It's terrible. It does need to be fixed. But right now, I am happy. Right now, I am happy that she won. She says, this isn't my win. This is our win. Thank you, Arizona. She hasn't won anything yet. This is kind of like a political battle. She didn't win the war. It is going to be very difficult for her to win the gubernatorial election coming up here in November. Brace yourselves. After Labor Day, things are going to get crazy. Maybe I'm wrong. I think you're going to see ban hammers. You're going to see the Democrats right now. This is my takeaway from Carrie Lake winning. You see them smearing her, and you know what they really think. You know what they really think of you, her, and me. I'm gonna fast forward through what I have here. This is what they think of us here. I thought I had it. No, had it saved here. So she won, and here's what they really think of us. Even if you're not a Carrie Lake fan, because I know there's people on the channel who are not. Not that they hate her or anything, they just don't roll with her like that. Maybe they're populist left or whatever else. You are included. If you don't denounce her, Dean Obadala made this tweet, and to me, I would love to ask him this. If you don't denounce Carrie Lake, I think he puts you in this category. But let me read his tweet. At this point, I literally view people who still support Donald Trump. Obviously, Carrie Lake does. So by association, if you support Carrie Lake, then you support Donald Trump, then he is talking about you. That simple. Not even if you went to J6, regardless if you're peaceful or not, he's talking about you. He looks at you and I no different than the despicable, vile people who supported bin Laden after 9/11. That's the takeaway. So Carrie Lake has officially won the primary, and they are scared because people outnumber them. Why do you think all of this shenanigans and questionable things are happening? All these fortifications are happening? It's because they need to do it. They're outnumbered. So my takeaway from Carrie Lake winning is it's just a battle, not the whole thing. It's going to be all troops, everyone, all hands on deck. I don't live in Arizona. All hands on deck. Arizona is a very big state right now. Every state's big. Anybody know what's going on with Joe Kent? Joe Kent, he was down by 1,000 votes with 40,000, I think, left. But every state, and I don't know what to think about Joe Kent. I hate using the word endorse, but I rock with Carrie Lake, period. I don't know Joe. I've talked about Joe Kent and my problems with him and dissing Nick Fuentes. I would be curious to hear what Carrie Lake would say about Nick Fuentes. But even if she was kind of south on him, she's built up so much goodwill with me. Joe Kent has not. Nothing, not against him. I'm just not. I don't know where I sit with him. But we don't know. He might have lost his primary. I don't know. But every state's important. It's all hands on deck. Because they know this is a takeover of a corporate movement. So they're like an animal. The most dangerous animal is one that's caught in a corner. My kids, because we have a dog, and my kids were going to go pet this dog. And I could see the dog was uncomfortable. And it was kind of like in like a area where there's bushes and a wall. And it was like, it probably felt like it was in a corner. And I was like, son, you need to come over here with me. You don't mess with the animal that thinks they're in a corner and not feeling you. That's the corporate party. And maybe I'm crazy, and I fully admit that. That's perfectly fine. I need to be honest about where I am. This might be a crazy take. I've said it before, but it might be crazy. because it almost feels like I say everything that's happening is about going against the populist right, which I would label Carrie Lake, America First populist right. Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan, instigating things. We're passing bills in Congress damn near unanimously. Damn near unanimous. And then Josh Hawley voted against it. Rand Paul voted present. They voted to approve NATO membership of Finland and Sweden while at the same time beef is popping off in Thailand. Like, we could, this is dangerous stuff. China doesn't want beef to pop off, but you know, like if you and another person are kind of coming up and like, you know, trash talking or whatever, and hands up, like somebody spit on somebody a little bit too hard or breathe on somebody too hard, or almost like someone pushed you into, anything could pop off. And I think they might be looking at that as an option because they can't stop this red wave. Whether Carrie Lake wins or not, it's not going to be stopped. DeSantis is, we're going to get into DeSantis real quick. You're not going to stop it. There's no stopping it. They can't stop it. They can delay it. They're just waking more people up. They know, just like I got woke up. I'm going to talk about a red pill moment here today too. But that's my takeaway. I fear that some of this craziness going on in the world could lead to more emergencies, even martial law, something like that. And that what happens, I don't know. Do they suspend elections, or I don't know what they do. I hope that does not happen, but I think they're looking at all options. Because who knows if that wave starts and the midterms come and then DeSantis is president in 2024, how it might be very hard to stop the momentum. I mean, that could be the populist right ruling or taking over for quite some time. I mean, we're 2 years out from 20. We're looking at a decade potentially, and who knows how that changes the dynamics in our country. Everybody, what's up? What is up? Mediopoly says that's right. Razorholic, he has some epic rants. Where was that? I think Razor Fist is a friend of Salty Cracker. Who's Razor Fist? I'm not familiar with Razor Fist. Obviously, somebody should check out. Sounds like Salty Cracker friendly. I don't get Biden announcing his Taliban and live. A lot of people that can vote weren't even alive for that. Yeah, I didn't read into that. I'm not the most knowledgeable on that. I thought that we were going to get rid of the Taliban, but I guess not. You know, how do you get rid of stuff like that? I don't know. I am not fully versed on that topic here. But yeah, DeSantis is not here to play games with you. I think most people here know that. I said he doesn't have to announce his plans for 2024. His actions protecting the people of Florida speak for themselves. There has not been a more obvious potential candidate for president in my lifetime leading into a general election. And what I mean by that is not that I necessarily would vote for him, but he's a strong candidate. He's right up there. You know, it's comic Dave Smith and Ron DeSantis. I'm saying he's an obvious person that should be running for president, not for Trump's vice president. He should be running for president. Period. He's the right age range. Trump is getting up there almost to 80. Nah, DeSantis is in his 40s. I think he's got the energy for he's ready. You ever been at a job and you know, hey, you're ready for the next position? Somebody you know is like, okay, I can see them as in this role. There's nobody been. The other person was Obama after he had that one speech, I believe it was at the DNC. You knew he was probably going to run for president. And it was a good speech. But I think DeSantis is proving it with more than just speeches. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis suspended Hillsborough County State Attorney Andrew Warren on Thursday for neglect of duty after the prosecutor refused to enforce bans on unliving fetuses and transgender surgery. Ron DeSantis said You F around, you'll find out. I'm going to get into a little bit what he actually did here, how it went down. It was crazy. This is who he suspended. It's Andrew Warren. I did not know anything about him before today. Looked into him today. This is Florida politics. This is a description of all the woke DAs sound the same. And I'm going to tell you why they sound like that. Warren uses every constitutionally granted power he can to change the justice system from within. Social justice warrior has become somewhat of a pejorative in the political lexicon. But if one were to describe what an effective social justice warrior might look like, you're likely to get something close, if not exactly, like Hillsborough County State Attorney Andrew Warren. Why do they sound more like the T group in Portland than a DA? They're supposed to be prosecuting crimes. Now, I'm all for it. He actually got somebody released who was wrongly convicted years ago. Great. But you're not a social justice warrior. That's not the role. You need to go become an activist then. Major reforms have marked Warren's tenure as the top prosecutor in the country, in the county, to Hillsborough's justice system and bullish stance against bills like 2021's HB1. HB1 is the riot bill, the no riot bill that I believe a portion of it at least got suspended by a judge. I don't know where that stands now. But that bill said in Florida, if you had 3 or more people a part of a protest and anybody around you started doing violence, then you could get, I don't know what the charges were, you could get caught up in it too. And they were questioning the constitutionality of it. Ron DeSantis, I don't know if he has the constitutional power to even remove or to suspend Andrew Warren. We are seeing him testing the line. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't think he's testing the line or crossing it to a way that it makes me uncomfortable. I think this is a legitimate test. If the guy says he's not going to uphold the law, can I suspend him? Can we have a guy who can even say that? It is interesting because he's suspending him before. I don't think he has actively. There's a case that he did not prosecute. I don't know, but maybe if there's a lawsuit, I think there will be, or something like that. Court system will deal with it. That will come out. This is about the bill. If you got gatherings of 3 or more that breach the peace, basically when they get violent, then if you're just there, even if you're peaceful. So you can see that chills free speech, but for protesting. But you don't have the right to protest anywhere you want. So I think it is constitutional. I'm not an expert, but just breaking it down from what I know, I think it is constitutional. You have the right to protest. You have the right to free speech. You do not have the right to block a highway, period. That is not protected by the First Amendment. So if you want to protest, you can do it. Do it on YouTube. You can do it on Twitter. You can get a permit. I know that sounds crazy for them because that's not as disruptive as they want. But if you want to be disruptive, then you take the risk. You're breaking the law. That's not free speech. You can apply for a permit, and the police will actually protect you. I know that's basically a fancy parade, but that's what it is. You're not protected to violate somebody else's rights on the First Amendment. So if you don't have a permit, now I will say, if it is a permitted test or presentation or whatever, march or whatever, and then violent pops off and you weren't violent, I don't think you can get caught up in that constitutionally. But the point is, Ron DeSantis doesn't mess around. Warren didn't just publicly proclaim that he wouldn't enforce the law. He refused to prosecute 67 protesters arrested in early June after Tampa protests turned violent. So in that case, he refused to prosecute. But I don't know if DeSantis didn't cite that from what I heard at the press conference. But so this is the woke DA saying, I'm not going to prosecute. Why would a DA do this? It's because they are some of the most aspirational sleazebags in our country. These are lawyers, and they're not to be trusted. And they all have aspirations for higher power, state attorney, senator. They probably wouldn't even want to mess with Congress. They view themselves as Senate, president, vice president. These types. I'm not saying Andrew and exactly, haven't heard him say that, but that's what these types do. Just like Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris was the first black woman, I believe, San Francisco DA, and she was the state district attorney in California. And some of the actions, so things weren't as woke back then. So she was hardcore. And some of those actions, just like Amy Klobuchar was running for president and she prosecuted a case, and a lot of people didn't like it because it was involved a black person, of course. And they said, no, we don't like you. They were attacking her. That's why I think these woke DAs are doing it. They're like, I want to be a DA, but I don't want it to hurt me as I progress my career. That's my opinion on it. So you can see he's defiant. He's obviously a Democrat. How a Democrat got in there, I don't know. But you're a Democrat in a red state, a deep red populist right state. That's not going to work. This I found disgusting. I'm telling you about the guy that, if you're just joining, I'm telling you about the guy that DeSantis suspended. Disgusting DA. Perhaps the highest profile flap from Andrew Warren's tenure came during the worst of the pandemic. In April 2020, the prosecutor supported the arrest of a megachurch pastor who had held church services in person. Then DeSantis signed an executive order allowing the in-person services to continue. I knew who DeSantis was, but I didn't know anything about him at that point. Like what he believed. Man, he was swooping in like Superman back then to save the day. So you see that. The guy didn't prosecute 67 protesters here after it turned violent, but he did prosecute a pastor of a church who held services in person during the pandemic. My goodness. How are you going to side with that? Reconcile that with me. If you're watching this video and you're siding with Andrew Warren, reconcile that with me. Absolutely not. The most common case that we have, he was talking about people, and this might be a good one here. I wanted to show all sides. People who lose their driver's license because they have unpaid civil fines. He's trying to find out different ways, or was. he got paid. They told him to pack up his stuff and get out. He was looking at that. So let me go back here. He just represented these woke DAs. And this is a video that I did a while back on the channel. And it describes exactly what was happening and the problem. What was happening and the problem with it. This is going back to Alvin Bragg, woke DA on Manhattan. As you might know now, he's become pretty famous for his wokeness. He was the one that wanted to prosecute, or actually sent the bodega worker to Rikers for defending himself. Crazy. I was here stuck in the middle. You've got to see this to believe it. I know I say that every day. You have to see this to believe this. New York Post reports Manhattan DA to stop seeking prison sentences in slew of criminal cases. What is going on? Manhattan's new DA has ordered his prosecutors to stop seeking prison sentences for hordes of criminals and to downgrade felony charges in cases including armed robberies and drug dealing. This is according to a set of progressive policies made public on Tuesday, which is yesterday as of this recording. What does that mean? This is directly from the memo, and the district attorney's name is Alvin Bragg. Bragg's memo detailed this: armed robbers who use guns or other deadly weapons to stick up stores and other businesses will be prosecuted only for petty larceny, a misdemeanor, provided no victims were seriously injured and there's no genuine risk of physical harm to anyone. Armed robbery, a Class B felony, would typically, what it was before, be punishable by a maximum of 25 years in prison. Petty larceny, which is what it is now because of his interpretation, his choice, it would be up to 364 days in jail, about 1 year, and a $1,000 fine. Criminals talk about a year in jail like it's nothing. And it's like it's nothing. If an armed robber goes into a jewelry store with a gun, it will only be prosecuted as long as no one gets seriously hurt or there's no genuine risk of physical harm. So, for example, probably warning shots or something like that would be a general risk. Who knows? But as long as he goes in, or he or she goes in with the gun, and those two things don't happen, worst case is a misdemeanor? Robbers who use guns or other to stick up stores. Is that... It's hard to reconcile where we are. It's gotten really, really hard to reconcile where we are. That is in Manhattan. Bragg claimed these policy changes not only will, in and of themselves, make us safer, will also free up prosecutorial resources to focus on violent crime. Yeah, of course it will focus resources elsewhere because you're not going to be prosecuting these. I would like to hear the argument for how it makes us safer. The only argument that I can understand is the thief has an incentive not to harm anyone, so it would be at worst case a year and a $1,000 fine. This comes on the heels of, I didn't clip this, maybe I'll clip it later, of the IRS telling thieves that they have to claim their theft, the profit of their thefts on taxes. This all is coming together like a puzzle piece. Of course, the NYPD's like, what is going on? Serious concerns about the message these types of policies send to both police officers and criminals on the street. Police officers don't want to be sent out to enforce laws that the district attorneys won't prosecute. Of course not. Why would I put myself in harm's way to arrest someone when they'll be kicked out with a $1,000 fine? There's already too many people who believe crime is going up. Smash and grabs are already going up in many of these cities. There's already too many people that believe they can commit crimes, resist arrest, interfere with police officers, and face zero consequences. It will lead to more young lives lost to gang violence and innocent people being hurt. Another cop was upset, said this is outrageous. He was elected to enforce the law. I guess not. He was elected. The people have spoken. Now, what I will say is, I have to keep reiterating it. We can't share a country like this. That's fine. If you elected him, I'm not trying to override the will of the voters. This is an old video. Who knew what DeSantis was going to do? So when they said DeSantis had this big announcement, I was guessing it was something like a podcast or something, it sounds stupid now. Obviously I was wrong. I knew it was going to be something about Florida though. He's not going to make anything about the national election until the last second. And I said in this video, and this video was from January 5th, almost the anniversary of J6, January 5th of this year. I was like, I was like, there's no recourse. What can you do? You can recall, like Chesa Boudin was the DA of San Francisco. He got recalled, but you can't do that in every district. It has to be part of your law. So I'm like, what do? You can't override the will of the voters. Unless your name is Ron DeSantis. He was elected to enforce the law? I guess not. He was elected. The people have spoken. Now, what I will say is, I have to keep reiterating it. We can't share a country like this. That's fine. If you elected him, I'm not trying to override the will of the voters. I'm just saying that we are no longer in the same country. There's a line that you cross that obviously I'm never visiting New York under these terms, ever. It's a different whole mentality, country, everything. During the news conference Tuesday, the new mayor, Eric Adams, was asked for his reaction. He just gave a non-answer, like, I haven't reviewed it. In the past, he said, I align with the view of Alvin Bragg's. Meanwhile, in New York, a concealed carry permit to carry a gun is almost impossible to obtain. Now, remember, these crooks who are doing stick-ups, they're not legally, in the most part, legally obtaining these weapons. So what does it take to get a legal carry permit in New York? One, you need proof that you regularly carry a significant amount of cash or jewelry as part of your business and can document it to the NYPD's satisfaction. Number two is a recent documented utmost serious threat that the NYPD deems credible. Third, you won't believe the third one. The third one is what the governing authority classify as a celebrity. Then you can carry a gun legally. You could apply for a permit. What's the penalty? New York criminal possession of a firearm is now a felony. This is from 2013, but it is a felony offense. So more has to come out from this. If you are in illegal possession of a firearm, that is a felony. So somebody just on the street illegally having it, it's a felony. But the act of using it to threaten to stick up is not. It doesn't seem to make sense. Well, it depends on what your angle is. It could make sense if you have a goal of implementing a certain philosophy throughout the United States, and one that appears to me as infiltrating the country in order to create chaos and civil unrest. We talked about the woke prosecutor. We talked about the woke prosecutors all over the country. Larry Krasner announced he won't prosecute people arrested for violence that rocked the city a while back. He's dropped charges on more than 60% of shooting cases. This is according to the California Globe. Kim Gardner, St. Louis, dismissed all charges against 36 people arrested for violence, arson, and looting. Mike Schmidt, Portland, refuses to prosecute the rioters who have burned and looted his city for over 100 nights. Kim Fox refuses to prosecute rioters. Chesa Boudin, San Francisco, we know that. He's got the recall, but he's the woke of the woke. We know what happened in Waukesha with Milwaukee and allowing that person to get out on very low bail. Woke DAs again, all over the country, creating chaos. I'm going to end with this. I had no idea the power of district attorneys. How many people do you think walking around know who their district attorney is? And not just who yours is, who are the district attorneys from the neighboring areas? Because when you look at certain places, the crime spills out from different counties. You look at Illinois, from Cook County to other counties. You look at Wisconsin, from Milwaukee to Waukesha and to other counties. The district attorney decides whether to charge a person with a criminal offense. It doesn't matter what the law says and what the charge will be. There's no limitation on that power. The judge has a little bit if they bring charges and they're in front of a judge, but if they don't bring charges, there's no recourse. Help me out if you know civics here at the district attorney level. This is the judicial branch at a more localized level. I don't think there's any recourse for people after they vote them in. The power is immense. So if you wanted to infiltrate our country, if you had bad intent, and this is a level that a lot of people don't know or pay attention to, district attorney, all you'd have to do, and I'm not going to name any names here, all you have to do is get money. If you're rich, pipe some money in. It really doesn't take that much money to get your name out there, advertised for people who are going to do this. If you want chaos, they get voted, and you sit back and you watch. And you watch your philosophy, and you watch America crumble. As in New York, the same city that's doing all this, you think it's a joke when they take down the statue of Thomas Jefferson and they enact, or they erect, I should say, statues of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. You think that's normal? You don't think that represents some type of cultish behavior? The same people who talk about gun control say it's only a misdemeanor if you use a gun in a process of a stick-up. The only time you see stuff like, a country's founding father statue removed from its biggest city, and you erect statues of people that have no business having statues, and nothing against them personally, but objectively, that George Floyd and Breonna Taylor have zero business having statues up. It represents that you've fallen. So we've got to educate. I have to educate myself. I had no idea. I guess I knew because I watched Law and Order back in the day, but it just never registered the power that district attorneys have. It never fully registered with me. Insane. Very easy way to corrupt things. Much easier than president. We've got to pay attention. And if you're in a state like Wisconsin, or I don't know, if you're in a red overall state, something's going to break. We can't let this type of so I will give myself credit on that one. I was like, if you're in a red state and there's these woke DAs, January 5th of this year, I said something's got to give, something's going to break. All state, it's something much easier than president. We've got to pay attention. And if you're in a state like Wisconsin, or I don't know, if you're in a red overall state, something's going to break. We can't let this type of stuff infiltrate and get until something happens. I think it will all shake out evenly. I think it will all work out in the end, whether that's 50 years down the road or 100, I don't know. But until then, if you don't agree with this, you got to get the hell out of there. Let me know what you think. Well, maybe 7 months. I said, oh, no, I don't know. Something's going to break. It might take 50 years or 100 years. Or if you're Ron DeSantis, 7 months later, the cops run up in your crib and say, get the hell out, DA. And I've been saying state DA. Obviously, there's no state district. It's AG at that point. But let's talk about this story. Slide up into this from Zero Hedge. So it goes from me saying it's going to take 50 years, how it started. I don't know, take 50, 100 years for this to break. 50 to 100 years. 7 months, DeSantis sends cops to physically remove suspended Soros-backed state attorney. They ran up in his office. So he suspended Warren, as we know, and we got this notification. Update, DeSantis sent state police to physically remove Warren, in bold, with access only to retrieve his personal belongings, and 2, to ensure that no files, papers, documents, notes, records, computers, or removable storage media are removed from the office of the state attorney. DeSantis set the cops at him. And you know the cops in Florida were so, and he had some at his press conference. You know that was a moment that they really enjoyed. Man, if you're a cop, think about if you were a cop who was chased out of Chicago and you were smart enough to take that 5,000 or you were lucky enough because there was only so many slots to get that 5,000 from DeSantis. Imagine that. Then you get to run up in, you're not arresting him, but you get to run up in the office of this guy, this woke DA, and say, get the hell out. DeSantis, man. Y'all gonna mess around and make DeSantis do this kind of stuff. He is not the one to F with. And then people were coming in saying Trump would never do this. He would say, I want to, but I have a beautiful relationship with the guy. So kind of like, well, Tony, let me call him Tony. So I said, no diss to Trump. I would support Trump as Ron DeSantis' vice president. But in all seriousness, if Trump didn't have the ego, in all seriousness, if he didn't have the ego, wouldn't vice president be the perfect job for them? They don't do anything. What do they do all day? Tell me, what does the vice president do? Especially like Joe Biden. Oh my gosh, that's where he was messing around in Ukraine. That's why he had the time. Or his son, through his son. They don't do anything. They don't have that much pressure on them. You can do some speeches, play some golf, and let Ronnie handle it. Trump comes in when he needs to and does his little thing. I don't know why Trump wouldn't be happy with that role. So I fully support Trump. Not as Robert Barnes said, it's going to be Trump and then Trump will let DeSantis run with him. Nah, bruh. DeSantis might. If you're nice enough, Donald, if you're nice enough to DeSantis, he might let you run as VP with him. He might. No guarantees, bruh. Because nobody's doing what he's doing. Nobody's done what he's done. There's no one with the resume of DeSantis. So thank you, Trump, for laying that Schedule F, as in fired, out there, the executive order that could help get leverage over the administrative state. Thank you. That's going to help DeSantis out a lot. You did great work there. I know Trump doesn't want to be a one-termer, but DeSantis had the cops run up in the office of a woke DA. You don't have anything on your resume like that. DeSantis had the cops come in on their own attorney. He gave him an eviction notice. He said, you don't have to go home, but you got to get the hell up out of here. And the state is applauding, happy about it. That's the power. That's the momentum. Everybody's with DeSantis. You see him at the press conference. Everybody's clapping and giving him dap. He was not messing around. He didn't even give him a chance to get up out the office. They announced it on Twitter the day before. They said something's going to go down. It's going to be great. Liberals are going to be triggered by it. And I'm like, I never in my head thought it was going to be something as serious as running up in the office of someone like Andrew Warren. Never thought. I thought it'd be something like, a troll type thing. Not like some state attorney, Andrew Warren, running up in his office. That's a boss move. Get on board or get out the way of this man. Just like Disney, I never thought it would happen. It happened. So many things going down in Florida. And Ron DeSantis is like, you're right here undermining everything I'm trying to do. And you won't be doing that to me anymore. It's over. I'm going to give you a second to hear the other side. Hear him out. This is Andrew Warren himself. he did this interview with the local CBS station.
Well, sure. I mean, this is blatant overreach by the governor. He's trying to upset a fair and free election, 2 of them actually. And this isn't just an attack on, this isn't just trying to suspend one elected official. This is about trying to suspend democracy here in Hillsborough County. I mean, this is a core principle of our democracy. The voters elect their leaders, not the governor. He can't simply pick up a pen or a crayon and change the will of the people.
It's a legitimate point. It is, so that I don't know the next steps. Obviously, I'm with DeSantis on this. I don't think it's like DeSantis has legitimate reason to say this guy is neglect of his duties. He has legitimate reason to say that. This isn't something like the executive order from Biden through OSHA mandating an experimental drug. No. That's a way beyond. That's an impeachable breach beyond the Constitution on many levels. Even just doing that in general is wrong, but then doing it through OSHA, that's not what OSHA is for. I mean, to handle a virus that occurs in the world. It's for workplace hazards, not world hazards. If you can do that for that, you could do it for anything. So, but this, I think Andrew has a point that you could try to test it and say, well, I didn't do anything wrong. He can't do that. But the police ran up in your office, though.
And to that point, I'm hoping you could give me a sense of how rare a suspension like this is. I'm thinking back to 2017. Governor Rick Scott at the time, a state attorney in Orlando, said she would not seek the death penalty, but she wasn't suspended. What's changed now that's made for this move that you now face?
Well, it's a great question. What's changed is that the governor's changed. You know, policy differences aside, we've had governors who have respected the rule of law, and now we have one who clearly doesn't. I mean, he is stepping on the rights of the voters of Hillsborough County. This is blatantly unconstitutional in violation of Florida statute. He doesn't have the authority to suspend me just because he wants to, especially when he's focused on things that I haven't even done yet. The bottom line is that the people elected me to serve in this position, and I'm going to continue doing it to keep our neighborhood safe.
So let me ask you, Governor DeSantis says you flagrantly violated your oath of office. Why are you deciding not to enforce the state's abortion ban?
Well, the governor's abortion ban is unconstitutional. So I'm the one upholding the law. In fact, the court has already said that it's unconstitutional. So but the governor is suspending me because I'm apparently not enforcing a law where, 1, no cases have been brought to me, and 2, the law has been suspended. That is, the law isn't even in effect because an injunction went in place saying that the bill is unconstitutional. So again, he's grasping at straws here. He's living in his own world. We typically call that world Iowa. The governor needs to focus less on his presidential aspirations and do more for the people of Florida.
Now, I'm thinking about the possible ripple effects.
So that's not the whole interview, but that's enough just to get his voice in the conversation. And we see Katie Maria says, thank you, Katie, for stopping by and making a comment. DeSantis knows what he's doing. Absolutely. He's an attorney, a former attorney. I'm not sure his full credentials there, but I think that's what he did in the military. He was a lawyer. So look at the package that he had. Like, this dude has libertarian tendencies, but then he will get authoritarian-ish when he needs to protect liberty. Like I just told the story about this dude right here, Andrew Warren, prosecuted a pastor for a church service. That should never happen ever in this country. For just a church service doing nothing wrong, peaceful. There is no emergency, no law, no nothing that should ever stop that. So this man right here tried to prosecute that pastor, Ron DeSantis. So this is what I mean by authoritarian-ish. He had to get authoritarian to protect the pastor and say, no, it's done. You can't do that. So I don't mean I mean, this is something that is, I've never really seen anything like this before in American politics. Not that it's not happened. I just haven't been paying attention, or I've never seen anyone use authoritarian type, and it's an executive order, so I'm not saying he's going like fascist or something, but he's using the executive order to protect people's liberty from this guy. Yeah, he knows what he's doing. I agree completely. Way more than I know. Let this dude work. Let me get out the way. I'm telling you, if you're not supporting this dude, just get the hell out the way. Don't worry about it. He got it. He knows what he's doing. He'll ask if he needs help. So I let you hear from Andrew Warren. So I think it's only fair that you hear from DeSantis himself.
You say you're not going to do certain offenses. And then most recently, after the Dobbs decision was rendered by the U.S. Supreme Court, he signed a letter saying he would not enforce any laws relating to protecting the right to life in the state of Florida. And mind you, we have had prohibition on third trimester abortions for a long time. We've had prohibitions on partial birth abortions for a long time. And then most recently, the legislature enacted and I signed protections for unborn babies at 3.5 months. And when they are aborted, it's typically done through a dismemberment procedure, which is really inhumane. Nevertheless, that is what the legislature has enacted. It's not for him to put himself above that and say that he is not going to enforce the laws.
I would love to live in Florida. Thinking about where, if I won $1 million or the lotto that happened, my brother sent me a text. I was like, is this a real thing? I don't know what the total was. It a total over $1 billion or something like that? Or some, and the government took like, I don't know the exact figures, like 800 million in taxes or something like that. And then the tweet said, congratulations to the government for winning the lotto. My dad used to always say, when they do these lotto figures, in other countries, they do it after tax. So they don't tell you it's $1 billion when they know the government's going to take 600 or whatever they take. The government's taking half or more, and they still advertise it as a bill. I'll take the 400 mil, but that's not what the lotto said. So if I had that lotto money, Florida, I have a crib in Florida. I'd be in a camper next to Luke Rakowski. We'd be out there chilling in Florida, living our best life, free, like libertarians.
Circuit, Andrew Warren has put himself publicly above the law. In June of 2021, he signed a letter saying that he would not enforce any prohibitions on sex change operations for minors. And that's a debate that we're having mostly administratively and through medical licensing in Florida, but other states have enacted penalties on the people that would perform those, which are really disfiguring these young kids. And he said, it doesn't matter what the legislature does in the state of Florida, he's gonna exercise a veto over that.
Yeah, there's some base stuff in the chat. GB says, if he didn't have the authority, he wouldn't have fired your ass. It looked like he had the authority when those cops rolled up in, huh? So I can say what I want about J6ers or whoever, but they're locked up. One dude got over 7 years, didn't even enter the Capitol. Whoever's on the throne, I can talk about the fortification of 2020 all I want, but who's on the throne? And two can play that game. And you need a DeSantis to play that game. I can question his authority, but your ass ain't in your office and you're not returning. School the world. He put in writing that he won't follow the law. Yep, that was pretty stupid. Can you imagine putting in writing? Now, Ron DeSantis isn't technically his boss, but he ran him up out of there, so I guess he was kind of like his boss. Putting in writing like, boss, I ain't going to do what you tell me to do. I ain't going to do what the rules of the company are, or in this case, the law of the state is. I'm putting it in writing that I'm not going to do it. That's when virtue signaling goes wrong. He thought he was going to do this little virtue signaling. I'm a Soros DA. We don't do that type of stuff. We only do woke stuff. Not in Florida, you don't. You found out the hard way. And I can't lie. I'm here for it. I'm totally here for it, DeSantis. I saw Cassandra McDonald Because I maybe I don't want to misconstrue where she was at, but I thought she was hesitant like me. But on Twitter, she was just like, she's pretty much solidified that it's got to be DeSantis. And just like me now, I'm like, DeSantis has got to run. So he signed the letter saying that he would not enforce any of the prohibitions on sex change operations for minors. On this topic, though, I am not 100% with Republicans or the populist right even on it. I think it's fine if DeSantis wants to go that route, but I think that should be taken care of. If you're doing these operations on children, it obviously has to be with the consent of a doctor, the child, and some type of guardian. If there's something going wrong, I think I would like to see them sue. I mean, these aren't cheap procedures, and I don't think you're going to get government funding to cover all of this. So you probably have enough money to sue if you're getting your children these procedures. I don't think there's poor children out here doing these procedures. I don't know, though. I wouldn't expect that. But regardless, either way, if it goes wrong, wouldn't they sue? Malpractice? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but wouldn't they take that up in court? So my point is the government shouldn't have to get involved with it. So I'm not for these things, but I am for if other people think it's right for them. If a doctor says it is, they do, and the parent and the child, then do you. DeSantis came with the receipts to say where does my authority come from? So for those that might be questioning this, Article 9 or sorry, Article 4, what is that? It's 4, right? Article 4, going back to Roman numerals, Section 7 of Florida's state constitution, which says that the governor may suspend from office any county officer for malfeasance, misfeasance. I'm not even familiar with the word misfeasance. It's like malinformation, misinformation, disinformation. Malfeasance, misfeasance, neglect of duty, and these don't apply. In drunkenness, incompetence might apply, actually. Permanent inability to perform official duties or commission of a felony, and may fill the office by appointment for the period of suspension. So DeSantis is like, we're not doing a recall. I don't think they have recall laws. It's not going to be a recall. It's going to be a me call. Like I'm going to appoint somebody else. DeSantis himself went back and called out Soros. Now, in this press conference, he didn't mention him by name, but I saw him in an interview on Fox, actually before this even went down a few days ago, or 12 days ago or so. He called Soros out by name. That's pretty ballsy. That's a powerful dude, 91 years old, but still powerful. So DeSantis hinted at that. So Warren thinks that, so this Warren and Soros stepped away from Warren after a while. So he stepped away from Chesa Boudin. But here we're trying to tie, because people throw this out, this is a Soros-backed person, but they play these games like it's this PAC funded by this other PAC and this other PAC that gets Soros money. So it's like it filters through so many different rabbit holes, it's hard to prove. But this is here Warren saying, yeah, we do think you got money from Soros. I said with DeSantis, you know he's doing something right when people are organically pushing for him to run for POTUS. Same is happening with comic Dave Smith. Maybe not if you're in the chat and you don't know who he is. It's not as much as like a DeSantis, because obviously DeSantis is a national figure. Comic Dave Smith, I think, will become one. He will be blowing up, in my opinion, over the next 2 years. He's been on Rogan. Well received on Rogan. He's been on Rogan maybe 2 times, been on Tim Pool 2 or 3 times. And he's going to become well known. Jo Jorgensen ran, and a lot of people know her name from the Libertarian Party, but we got somebody way better. But people in that party, I'm actually an official member. It's the only party I'm an official member of, actually, just newly. They are pushing for comic Dave Smith to run. So the same is happening with comic Dave Smith, Jimmy Dore. People are advocating for them to do it. There's no organic push for Mayor Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom. There's no organic push for them to run. Maybe there might be a little bit for Michelle Obama because you're trying to relive the Obama magic, but I don't know if she stands up to the scrutiny. So Kamala Harris, I actually thought she was going to be a decent candidate. I didn't know she was this bad. I had no idea. So she just got exposed, and Michelle Obama could be too. Other than maybe Oprah, Michelle Obama, I don't know of a organic push for a Democrat to run. Who is that? This is where I said nothing against Trump. I think he could be a good vice president for Ronald DeSantis. Ron DeSantis had a clip online where he was talking about this is literally the red pill moment. I started my Twitter account in August of 2020. The first upload on this channel was right around July. I think it was around July of 2020. And what you're looking at here is a tweet that describes the exact reason I started this channel. Oh, I got red pilled and then started this channel. I actually was planning to do a Colin Kaepernick video as my first video. I ended up doing an Ice Cube video. Really liked researching that. Ice Cube was doing a contract with Black America. And I was talking about the good parts of it and the bad parts of it. It's kind of funny reminiscing of those old videos, those first videos. But she talked about, this is Christina Pushaw, and she talked about this with it, and then she just retweeted the moment here where Ron DeSantis is really talking about the exact, it was just unbelievable. It's like, this is the exact moment I became red pilled.
They would shame people for even leaving their house in April, May 2020, and you can't do it. And some people wanted to bury loved ones. They wanted to do this. And the argument people were making is, well, wait a minute, I can look at the risk of COVID, and it's something that I'm willing to accept because these things mean more to me, to be able to bury a loved one or to be able to do things with my family. And the public health establishment, oh, no, you can't make that kind of cost-benefit analysis. Then, when the George Floyd riots were happening, they actually wrote a letter with thousands of these people signing it saying, we do not believe that rioting and protesting is bad for COVID, that you can do it, go ahead, because we think it's so important that you have to do it. And then they said, but this doesn't mean we support all protests. If you're protesting lockdown policies or other things, then you can't do that. And that's when I knew these people are a bunch of frauds.
That was literally the moment. Stuff had been leading up to that moment, going back to thinking about those, 2020. And the thing that I remember 2020, I still remember Italy. And Italy was the first, it's the first country I remember when they had lockdowns. And they had lockdowns before us, and however you define lockdowns, but basically when everything's closed, you can't go out type of stuff. They had those lockdowns in March. That's when everyone started going virtual, working from home. And then I'm seeing on the news, that's back when I was watching the pandemic updates every day. I was actually watching Andrew Cuomo's. I don't know if he had started them then, but whenever he started his, I was watching his updates every day. I thought they were actually good. Turns out that I took the red pill, but it took a while for it to figure out, to seep in, for me to digest it. So I remember talking to my wife, and I'm like, I'm not a doctor, obviously. But when you have something like this pandemic, what it is, a virus, how is locking down, like, what role does that play? Like, call me crazy. I'm like, so I'm not questioning the pandemic. I'm questioning the government response to tell everybody to stay inside. I was like, at best case, you're just delaying it. Because at some point we got to go outside, right? At some point we got to go to the grocery store, or we got to go, like, we got to live. So I'm like, aren't we at best case just delaying it? And, she didn't really fully go along with it or whatever. So you see, I was questioning. I wasn't red-pilled yet. And then this stuff happened when the Black Lives Matter. And that was one of the first things I was like, oh, they're protesting. I was like, oh, really? Like, I thought you weren't supposed to be outside. At that point, it really was kind of a take that you weren't supposed to be outside. And then they did the protests. The protests look crazy. Remember them? The protests were very huge. They were huge. Everybody wanted to go outside. I think that was part of the protesting. People just wanted to go outside, especially young people. The clubs were closed, all that kind of stuff. In the article, the Soros article, oh, did I even read that? Oh, I didn't even read that, I don't think. So I didn't do the Soros article yet. Let me get to that. I have an article from Soros, how he talked about why, it's an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal about why he supports reform. And he talked about the pandemic. He blamed some of the crime on the pandemic. Crazy, insane that he would have the gall to do that. Of the lockdowns, basically. So this person, Joel, said the turning point for me was this protest march in Brooklyn, New York, supported by politicians and health professionals, while schools, playgrounds, and houses of worship just a few blocks away were closed. The outrageous hypocrisy should not be forgotten and should never be repeated. This is what it looked like. And you see the protest and you're like, oh, okay. It was kind of like, okay, is the pandemic over or what? I mean, what? Because you're supposed to be social distance and all that kind of stuff. And then it did not apply here. But it did apply if you were protesting lockdowns. They were called super spreaders. And I'm like, science is a disciplined craft. Like no legit scientist would ever make these arguments. It's just like Neo when he saw the black cat. And then he was like, oh, is that deja vu? It was a glitch in the Matrix. They messed up. They had to go to too many lengths to fortify things, that the more lengths you go to fortify things, the easier it is to see things, and you see these glitches in the Matrix. And those glitches in the Matrix only help to wake people up. So there's a risk. There's clearly a risk to them of doing too much to actually wake people up. I actually said right here, this was my exact moment. Other people said the same too. Me too. Now some public health officials or experts are broadcasting a new message. It's time to get out of the house and join the mass protests against racism. White coats for black lives. And there's no one who uses logic in their life and values logic that saw that and was just like, oh, that's no big deal. I'll go outside too. At that point, you were asking questions. Another person said, agreed. From there, I knew something wasn't right. Yep. Happy Eye Doc said, for me, it was when they tried to close down our small business. Nope, not happening. Then they let criminals out of prison so small businesses could get wrecked and looted. What a bunch of malarkey. The anarchists, insiders, etc., are the dogs of a particular wing of the state. Then they had the autonomous zones. You tell me in the chat, what was your red pill moment? I'll get to this Soros article in a second, and I'll be out. We need God first and America next schools. School the world, yes. Ryan says, people keep saying DeSantis is for red flag laws, but I haven't seen him talk about it. Does anyone have a video they can post? I do have. I don't know if I have it. I have seen it. It's from I think it's from 2018. Let me look it up real quick. And I don't think it was after the terrible shooting, so there was a lot of pressure. So I think this is it here, so let me share this. I don't know if it has the video, but this is the article of it. Yeah, this is the video here.
Governor Ron DeSantis says the internet is a factor in our country's uptick in mass violence.
When you have people that have pathological ideologies, if you didn't necessarily have places online to congregate, they would not have strength in numbers.
Most recently, investigators discovered the gunman in Dayton had made violent threats on Twitter. So did the man who killed 6 people in the 2011 shooting that severely injured Arizona Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. Here in Florida, the team behind the Parkland school shooting had a disturbing social media profile, which included gruesome Instagram photos of animals he had killed.
Being able to go and trade these ideas in an online community, I think that radicalizes people.
But the solution, DeSantis says, isn't an obvious one.
Typically, the government's not policing or holding people accountable just for speech. It really requires incitement or to be a threat.
If there is a threat, there are options. Florida's red flag laws can take away your guns temporarily if you made a credible threat. Many, including the governor, are behind it.
But I just want us to be responsive to that. And the vast majority of these incidences have had red flags. The Marjorie Stoneman Douglas report made that clear. So I think we need to identify that and do something about it.
Last week, Florida launched a threat assessment portal for schools and law enforcement to share information which will be confidential. And a statewide app called Fortify Florida allows anyone to report suspicious activity anonymously. In Tampa, Jennifer Holton, Fox 13 News.
So there it is. This was from August 8th, 2019. And the red flag that I see there is, I've talked about this, when you see these people unliving animals, that's a problem. A lot of them have that in their history. The Uvalde dude had allegedly 9 dead cats that he had unlived by himself with a shovel, I believe, in a bag. That was the time to note. Now, we have to, I don't know what the law is on that, but to me, that we have to go down a mental health path on that. I do not support any red flag laws at all. DeSantis might pivot on that or not. I don't know. But regardless, I'll have to do more research to see where Florida stands with it now. I think they still do have these laws. So thank you for bringing that up. We want to talk about the pros and cons. Nobody is perfect. It is impossible. I don't even agree with myself from 2 years ago. How are you supposed to find someone who agrees with you on everything to represent you? So that is a question that is one of the questions I would ask Ron DeSantis. Where do you stand on the red flag laws? Are there any better other ways to preserve? Are there dangers with them? I think those are all fair questions to ask. But remember, that was the before times. Like that, things were not the same then as they are now. We do not trust each other as much. So I don't. Yeah, DeSantis is only getting wiser and better. That was 2019. I do agree because he's on Fox and stuff, and they don't ask him any tough questions. I really like Tim Pool, but you have Carrie Lake on there, Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're not really asking tough questions. They try to hint at these questions. They want to probably maintain access to some, they've been doing well. So they're not compromising themselves or anything too much to me, but you need to ask these questions. Donald Trump needs to be asked questions. So thanks for bringing that up, GB. We want to talk about the whole picture. Nobody is perfect. There's some other stuff that I wanted to look into Ron DeSantis as well, that he did in regards to Israel. Some bills, I'm like, what does that have to do with Florida? So I don't know. I have to read it. I've seen some people bring that up on Twitter, and I have to look into it. GB says, GB says, to Spicy Peach, I make friends with crazy people. So we're just a bunch of crazies hanging out late night. Let me go to the Soros article. This is the article where Soros was justifying himself. Why I support reform prosecutors. So he's like, everybody knows now. It's out there in the open. Let me back it up. Let me have my own voice, which I'm fine with. It. Everyone's talking about him, kind of not liking it. He should be able to speak and defend his position. Let's see how well he did. I don't know. I didn't clip certain parts of this article. One of the things I did want to get here was here. This is an interesting paragraph. Serious scholars researching. This is George Soros. He wrote this himself, or pay. I don't know, if he paid somebody or what, but it's under his name right here. That's not me. This is him, by George Soros. He has the byline. He said serious scholars researching causes behind the recent increase in crime have pointed to other factors. A disturbing rise in mental illness among young people due to the isolation imposed by these pandemic lockdowns, a pullback in policing in the wake of public criminal justice reform protests, and increases in gun trafficking. Many of the same people who call for more punitive criminal justice policies also support looser gun laws. So he acknowledged right here a rise in mental illness among young people due to the isolation imposed by pandemic lockdowns by George Soros. What he's trying to do is pass the buck, because some politicians and pundits have tried to blame, like myself, recent spikes in crime on the policies of reform-minded prosecutors. The research I've seen says otherwise, George Soros says. Check this out. He says the most rigorous academic study analyzing data across 35 jurisdictions show no connection. Link the data, link the study. So that it's an academic study by the same people who are in college, or they believe the same thing, and they want to find, they might have I have to read the study, but they might have a conflict of interest. I don't believe that. I need to see the study for myself. The parameters, what 35 jurisdictions, all that stuff. And they said, in fact, violent crime in recent years has generally been increasing more quickly in jurisdictions without reform-minded prosecutors. So how am I supposed to believe that? Because you're biased. Obviously, the ones that are not reform-minded prosecutors, you want to get them out of there because they could turn into a MAGA or a figure that you don't like. Unlived rates have been rising fastest in some Republican states led by tough-on-crime politicians. So that's basically the heart of the letter. He says we need a more thoughtful discussion about a response to crime. And then he's like, well, I'm concerned about crime, but our system is rife with injustices. I do agree there's things that always could be improved or made better, but obviously this is disingenuous. Then he talks about we have to acknowledge that black people, these are some really evil people. That's why I say when people, even though somebody like Nick Fuentes would say stuff that you could call racist or racially insensitive, I'm like, okay, let me do a test. Do you think Nicole Hannah-Jones is racist, or Ibram X. Kendi, or George Soros for, say, at least this comment here? Do you think that this strategy of using the skin of black people to defend his lotto system of putting money in all these DAs and hoping one of them rises to the top, to senator or to federal judges or president, is that racism? If you don't think that is, then I don't want to hear what you have to say about Nick Fuentes. I care more about consistency than what you want to label somebody. He openly, again, this is George Soros's words. He said, we spend $81 billion every year keeping around 2 million people in prisons and jails. We need to invest more in preventing crime with strategies that work, deploying mental health professionals in crisis situations, investing in youth job programs, and creating opportunities for education behind bars. Fine, do all those things, but that has nothing to do with a state attorney. This reduces the likelihood of those prisoners will commit new crimes after release. I agree. That work on those programs, but it's not the job of a state attorney to fix the ills of the country. You're supposed to prosecute the law. You don't interpret the law. It's not a living law. It's time to uphold what you're supposed to uphold. Chesa Boudin resurfaced today, I think, or yesterday now. Actually going to Getter for this one. First time I've been screen sharing on a Getter post, which is kind of cool. Chesa Boudin knew the rules of this game. This is the ex-San Francisco DA that, very similar to Andrew Warren, they got told to get the hell out of town. But Chesa Boudin, it was a recall from the people. It wasn't the governor. Obviously, Gavin Newsom would never do that to a progressive DA. He knew the rules of this game going in. Once you've unlived your usefulness, you get discarded like trash. Chesa Boudin tweeted, I am choosing to put my family first. Whenever you see a public figure say, I'm putting my family first, that means something went wrong. They don't put their family first. Spidey sense start tingling. Whenever you hear a politician, or even like any public figure, like I remember Urban Meyer, a former Florida and Ohio State football coach, using that term. I was like, something went wrong. No, you don't put your family first. When it comes to winning rings, you don't put your family first. I'm choosing to here's Chesa Boudin. I'm choosing to put my family first.
Spider sense start tingling.
I will not be running for office in 2022. When this all went down, I talked about it and I said he could run for office again in 2022, even though he got recalled. And I was like, the voters had just said, we don't want you. He's not running again in 2022. But that doesn't mean he might not try to run again, though, in another year, 2023. So he had a long tweet about this. He was like, we made a lot of progress in a short period of time in San Francisco is where he's talking about. I am particularly proud of our significant expansion of victim services, including new programs to serve our AAPI community, he's talking about Asian, and the appointment of the first ever multilingual Chinese American victim services chief. And I said on his way out, he pledged allegiance to the flag of any identity that flows through the corporate Democrat Party. Chesa continues, our resentencing work that offered second chances to those who had caused harm and supported victims, our restorative justice work, our focus on accountability through behavioral health treatment. I said, he was a district attorney prosecutor. Why does it sound like he aligns more ideologically with that T group than the U.S. justice system? You're not an activist, Chesa, just like Andrew Warren. Chesa went on to say again here, go back. Chesa went on to say, let me find it again. I join the vast majority of San Franciscans in urging our elected or, as is increasingly common, appointed, little diss there, appointed leaders to work for equal justice, evidence-based reforms, and improved services for victims. That's false. In reality, the vast majority of San Francisco citizens recalled and fired you. He was a Soros-attached DA until George Soros tried to be like, I don't know you like that. There's a classic video from a while back on the channel where a guy gets in the elevator with two women Did anybody remember that from? It feels like it was a decade ago. It feels like it was another lifetime when that happened. It was a dude got in an elevator with two older women. It was one of the craziest videos you'll ever see. The dude he got punched, or one of the women kind of swung on him. It was crazy. It was during the time when the pandemic got everybody nuts. So everybody had gone nuts at the time. But one of the one of the quotes from that was like, it was something like, "I don't know you like that," or something like that. It was crazy, man. It was crazy. Man, those times were back then. The pandemic, just a little bit ago, some of the craziest times. But this Chesa Boudin is tied to Soros. We know that he was a part of this foundation to promote an open society that was funded by Soros. He took pictures with them, attending one of their events. Look at them all masked up, showing their allegiance. Look at them all masked. I think not one of them, every single one, not one of them without a mask. It's fine if you want to wear a mask. It's fine. I don't know if the rules were there where they were at, but that's not normal for everyone to want to wear a mask. That's not organic. So they have the receipts, but it was funny because they're like, just a day after Boudin's landslide loss in liberal San Francisco. So it's not MAGA that voted him out. It was the liberals, probably classic liberals in San Francisco. A Soros-funded PAC rushed to correct the record. Mr. Soros has not directly or indirectly backed or contributed to Mr. Boudin, a representative for Justice and Public Safety PAC told townhall.com. Isn't that convenient? All of a sudden, I don't know you. He's in pictures with them. It looked like he rolled with them. And then all of a sudden, Soros was like, I don't know you like that. Basically, like, he didn't say that directly, but his team got on it and was like, we don't want to associate ourselves with a loser. So it's all a game. If George Soros really was proud about his cause, wouldn't he be proud about that dude? Why wouldn't he be proud of that dude? Even if he didn't contribute to him, he was a woke DA. Why wouldn't he say, well, I didn't contribute to him, but I support his criminal reform? Soros could have came out and said that. That was very possible for him to do. Or this PAC, they could have said that. They could have said, well, we didn't directly, contribute to him, or we didn't contribute to him, but we support his ideology of being soft on crime, in my words. But they could put it in their own words. I don't know how you spin that, but they can. And you say, yeah, we're for that. We still support him. No, but that was no. That wasn't the take. So yeah, I'll take some questions now. That's what I had for the live. There was that other video too from back. These woke DAs, man, they are playing a hell of a role. Going back, even looking back at the channel, at this video I did about New York. This is another one that's really about the woke DAs. This was the one with I've played it before. It's the one where the woke DA, Letitia James, brought in these traffic cops, basically, and they got their ass beat 1-on-3 by a dude in a pink jumpsuit. I'm not joking. Seriously. It's really happened. And starts giving light work to 3, it looked like unarmed police officers. I didn't know what they were. He comes out the car, he's kicking them away. It's like 3 versus 2. But the one guy is just kicking, swinging the fake cops off of him, gets back in his car and then goes away, drives away. And I'm like, damn, that's messed up. That must be the UK. Like, because to my knowledge, I don't think all their police carry guns over there. I'm not an expert. Let me know if you know. I don't think they carry guns over there. So I'm like, damn, they got crazy stuff going on in the UK. I even text my brother, if a guy like that, and the guy was black, it looked like, the video's not very clear, but the guy was black in a pink jumpsuit, big looking guy. I'm like, if that happened in America, it would have been over. That's what we were texting back and forth, like, dang, that's messed up how the UK does things. It happened in America. It happened in New York City. Gateway Pundit had to talk about it. Probably a job for the police. I would say so. Driver easily gets away after violently assaulting 3 NYPD civilian traffic enforcement agents that had approached after a traffic accident. Hey, if you vote for this stuff in New York, you get it, but we need to break up. That is not, we're not a union. It's like e pluribus unum, out of many is one. And that's the idea that all the states got together and said, we're different, but we have enough commonality to create the federal government. No, we don't have any more commonality. That's not okay. I don't want, let me stop before I said what I was going to say, but that would have been different if real cops showed up. I want real cops to show up. I'll link the video in comments, description, or up above, because I don't know what YouTube thinks of that type of video, but I don't want him driving away. Anyone who is willing to throw hands on a civilian police force is not someone I want back in society driving around next to me. What weapons does he have in the car? What happens if, God forbid, he gets into a fender bender with somebody and somebody gets out and they're mad? What happens? This is literally a consequence of all this wokeism and all this complete idiocracy that's going on. That's what this is stemming from. Directly.
The civilian traffic department, a bunch of fucking people with gender studies degrees jump out, they go, excuse me, sir, you have tapped this other vehicle, I need to see your license and registration, and the dude jumps out, he starts beating the shit out of them.
A few weeks back, Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, instructed the NYPD to stop conducting traffic stops and instead leave the job to newly hired civilian traffic agents who immediately got that work by one dude. This is not acceptable. I don't live in New York, and I demand that they become a different country. That's not acceptable. I'm going to play this. I found the video with the elevator. This is the one I was referencing. This is the one I was referencing here. This is one of, I hate to say this is one of my favorite clips, but this video is hilarious. I'm going to play it. Anybody remember this when this came out? This was what? Was that January of this year? Wow. This video was just 6 months ago? Oh my gosh. It felt like it was 2 years ago. I swear to you. Wow. I don't know when it happened, but I uploaded it 6 months ago.
Get out.
Get out.
Yo, stop.
Get out. Get out.
What you guys doing?
Get out.
Get out. What you guys doing?
What's wrong with you? Don't touch me.
Don't you have
Do
kids?
not touch me.
Get out.
Do not touch me.
Get out. I'm not touching you. Oh, did you just hit me? Did you just hit me?
You just hit me.
You just hit me? You too?
Black Lives Matter.
Yo,
Black
this is
Lives
race. Wow.
Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives
Black
Matter.
Lives Matter.
Stop. Yo, stop recording. I don't know you. Yo, you need to stop.
Get out.
I'm not getting out. I was here
Yes, you
first.
are.
Man, stuff is getting stuff's getting wild out here, man.
Get out. Don't touch me.
Stuff's getting wild out here.
Don't touch me.
I'm not touching you. Oh, did you just hit me?
I saw Whoopi Goldberg try to admonish Bill Maher for some of his jokes against these branch Covidian, these mask freaks. That it's just, they treat these masks like they're life-saving items. And I just can't, I'm like, wow, look at what's happening. Xi Jinping would be so proud right now. You want me to worry about Ukraine when you've got grannies on the elevator throwing left hooks?
I'm not touching you.
Oh, my goodness, she looked like Holyfield. She was just like, whap. And then had the audacity to talk about Black Lives Matter.
This is race. Wow.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
She gave him the beat. It looked like she did. Did she just hit you, bruh? The big takeaway is let cooler heads prevail. Bruh, just get out the elevator. It's not worth it. Your phone's not going to protect you. You don't want to fight with them. I have no beef with you. If you're that scared, I know I shouldn't have to be the one to capitulate, but damn it, I'm not going to eat a left hook from grandma. Like that's not, I don't need that. We don't need to be in a physical confrontation. How about them yelling Black Lives Matter? I guess his black ass didn't matter when you threw that left hook.
Black Lives Matter.
Yo, this is race. Wow.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Stop. Yo, stop recording. I don't know you. Yo,
Don't touch me.
I'm not touching you. Oh,
See, there's the I don't know you reference. I gotta clip that. I don't know you. That's how I got onto it. Like Soros, were like they were asking, they were like, oh yeah, Chesa Boudin just he got recalled, and that's messed up. The voters have really showed that they don't want this criminal justice reform that you want, Soros. And the Soros-backed group was like, we don't know you, Chesa Boudin. We don't know him like that. I guess his black ass didn't matter when you threw that left hook.
Black Lives Matter.
Yo, this is race. Wow.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Stop. Yo, stop recording. I don't know you. Yo,
Don't touch me.
I'm not touching you. Oh, did you just hit me? Did you just hit me?
You just hit me.
You just hit me? You too?
Black Lives Matter.
Yo, this is race. Wow.
I can't do this anymore. I can't. Libs of TikTok, credit to this. I have another video. I'm going to do another. So that's enough of that. Release the tape. This came out today. Revolver. They're doing some great work at Revolver. I'll do this story, then I'll be out. Maybe check the chat, and then I'll be out. Wait, okay, I was about to say, I never got that before. So release the tape. Revolver has definitive proof FBI is hiding critical footage of the J6 pipe bomber. We've been wondering what happened with this figure. We don't know. And an exclusive analysis by Revolver News can prove that the FBI is in possession of but has refused to release security camera footage of the J6 PB. So as we know that there was that thing that was planted at the DNC building. I'm going to try to avoid the AI. Obviously, I'm not saying anything bad. I just would rather avoid it. This extraordinary revelation should be the immediate subject of congressional inquiry as to why the FBI has stonewalled release of the footage. So this is not getting to a good place, because I've been wondering, well, what's happening? How could you not know who did it? You know, the FBI's, they're labeling anarcho-capitalists, ANCAPs, as domestic terrorists. So why can't you release all the footage or find out who laid this down? You would think the J6 committee would be talking about this as well. The reason why everybody's focusing on it is if the corporate Democrats don't talk about it, it's probably something they know that hurts corporate Democrats. You might think, well, man, it's a pipe, it's a real serious thing. Why would they do that? We're in a place that's a lot different now. So they show the stationary camera overlooking the park benches would have a clear money shot picture of the situation here of the person and the bag. All the FBI needs to do is show the same video camera footage from 10 minutes later, and we would see who it was. We know this because of a simple Google Earth walkthrough, and because this person is captured at these same park benches on a second security camera, whose footage was released on September of last year. The reason the FBI has been hiding this key camera footage for 18 months is, for now, a matter of speculation. What is now beyond speculation, however, is that the FBI has dead-on footage of the situation here, yet despite a $100,000 reward out to the public asking for information leading to this arrest of this person, they're refusing to share this footage. So I want to know. It sounds like Revolver doesn't know for sure, but they're saying that they should. If they have footage, they should release it if they really want to find the person. Looking at Google Earth Street Views. Yeah. So let me know what you think about that. I'll check out the chat. I'll be out. Late night stream. Going into the weekend. Might be going to, it's fair time. All the fairs are popping up. We might go to a local fair with the family. I love fairs. I always love fairs. It probably, it's funny as an adult how many things point back to your youth. We went to the fair every year. The which fair? It was in Ohio. Geauga County Fair, I believe it was, every year. Just get your little funnel cake or whatever they're selling, ride a couple rides, play a couple games, see the sheep and horses or whatever they bring. So we might be doing that this weekend. Love that. So I used to live in Minnesota. The Minnesota State Fair, I love it. Now, they had the same booths up every year. Like, it was the exact same thing every year. And my wife was like, we should probably go every other year. It's the same thing. I was like, nah, we're going to go every year. I love this. And they would bring in barrels of corn, fresh sweet corn. It looked like mutant sweet corn. The sweet corn would be like 3 times as big as like the sweet corn you get at the grocery store, and like 1,000,000 times better. Never had corn like that. Ryan asked the question. I'll be answering questions in the chat. Ryan says, what do you think of the transgender folks? Clearly enabling them is not helping their self-unlive rate worse than clinically depressed folks. My first thought is I have love for everyone. I have no beef, even for those that hate me. I mean, they might, nowadays doesn't take much. So I have nothing but love for people, regardless. Hopefully, you find your way in life. Your way in life might be different than mine. My number one concern is, do not bring that ideology to education, to schools. That is a religion. It is something you have faith in. If you say, I can identify, like Demi Lovato's like, well, like kind of like a fad, like bell bottoms are in or flare pants are in, so I'm going to be called they, them. She said that's how she felt. And then I was like, in the interviews, they were like, well, what happened with those they, them pronouns? She was like, oh, about that, I go by she now. That's fine. Do you. I got nothing but love for you, but don't bring that ish around my children, though. I don't care if it's a public school or not. And yeah, you might have to homeschool your children. You have to take responsibility for your children. I'm not blaming them. You have to take responsibility for your children no matter what. But that's unconstitutional, has no place in a school. That's one of my first things, is that ideology can't be spread. Like, with careless like that. Like it's fact. I've talked about the clip where the one trans man, which this person was very respectful, and they were talking to their class about it, and they said that when children are born, when infants are born, the doctor guesses at their gender. And I was like, you don't do that. I have no beef with you. I've got nothing but love for you, but that is crossing the line. Saying that the doctor guesses. The doctor does not guess. I don't believe that ideology. I don't have to believe that ideology, and that is not hate. So there's a lot on that topic. As far as gender affirming care, I fully support if you and a doctor and the parent and the child, you all three or whoever is in the decision, all of you agree, anything that a parent, a child, and a doctor agree on has nothing to do with me. So that's kind of my in general take. There's a lot to this ideology. The goal is to, any religion is to evangelize the religion. You must spread the religion. So the goal is to make everyone in that religion. Even if you're not trans, even if you're not gay, you can identify as an ally. So you're in our religion, and that whole group reports to the corporate Democrat Party. So there's a lot. Don't be manipulated. I've got nothing but love. So if you view yourself as a part of the LGBTQ community, the test that I would ask is ask one of your community members, do you consider someone who's MAGA and LGBTQ a part of the community? Do you respect their views? If they can't answer yes, you're not a part of an LGBTQ community, you're a part of a non-MAGA community, first and foremost. So there's a lot to unpack with that topic. It's also become a big business, a big booming business with drugs, being a part of it, and there's a conflicts of interest. So I've got nothing but love for fellow citizens, but we have to be honest. And government officials should not be promoting gender affirming care without acknowledging the pros and cons, and without acknowledging it doesn't apply to everyone, without acknowledging that you are being reckless. Dr. Rachel Levine, I think she was very reckless in not talking about the cons, or at least qualifying and saying, this was for me. This works for some children. Go talk to a doctor, make your own decision. It's not for everyone. And then on top of that, if you don't believe it, I don't hate you. I'm just sharing you my beliefs. You know how far that would go in this country? If someone would just say, hey, I don't agree with you. I believe I believe that gender is fluid. I believe that Demi Lovato one day can say I'm they, them, and then the next day I'm ziz, and then the next day I'm he, her. I believe that, but if you don't believe that, I don't hate you. I'm just letting you know what I believe. Do you know how far that would go if somebody would say that? Just like the president even? I don't know. Supposed to lead everybody? How far would that go if the president would say, I don't hate you if you don't agree with that? We don't come close to that. Eddie Sanchez says, if churches are embracing the LGBT, shouldn't that be a separation of church and state? I'm not seeing a church and state issue there. I know what you're saying, because LGBTQ has been co-opted by the government, but I don't think that's a separation of church and state issue. I think that's issue of your faith in God, and if you believe it, whatever you believe is whatever you believe. I think the gender theory, this is critical gender theory, or there's many names for it, but I think this is a part of the way to control a country. You have to get people to not believe in God. So I played earlier in the live, I shared a tweet where somebody said the founding fathers were villains because some of them owned slaves. And I said we're all flawed. No, they're not villains because of that. And my belief in God helps me think through that. I believe in God. I believe humans are flawed. So I don't believe that they're flawed is, every crime is different, but it was very prevalent back then. And right now I might have devices that were made by slaves. And do I care enough to even look that up or dig into that? A little bit, but they're flawed, I'm flawed. My point is, if you believe in God, you're not going to be as easily manipulated. That's why this clip, and that's part of what that LGBTQ, in my opinion, push, the corporate push, not the people, the manipulation, just like people manipulate Black lives with Black Lives Matter. Nothing against the people, it's against those who manipulate the identity. Carrie Lake has that clip where it just, she's polished because she's a, former TV person, and there's 3 former TV people in the GOP who won their primaries. You're polished. You know how to talk to people. You know how to make mistakes but be professional about them, so they don't even feel like mistakes. But this really, it seems so simple, but this really made me feel, I really felt good. Seriously. Carrie Lake I really felt good when I heard her say this. We need to see more. We need to hear more figures say this. You could hear the crowd felt it. It's not anything profound, but it's just like, this is what we want to hear now.
Now, the most important thing is we got to bring him back. No, I'm not talking about who you think, but I do agree with you on that. We've got to bring him back.
That was dope. Dope front, that was dope. That was dope how she did that. That was dope. That was a good moment. She's powerful, man. She is for real. Well,
right? When we kicked God out, that is when our troubles began.
Yes, amen. Preach.
And we got to invite God back into our culture.
Preach.
We've got to invite God back into our homes. And we have got to invite God back into our hearts. Because let me tell you something, God is on our side. And with God's help, we will win this and we will save this republic. Because when you have God on your side and you have America First policies, we are all going to live a better life because of that.
What a moment. Man, I thought that was excellent. But you look at Gen Z, this is an older article from 2018, but it's just showing you that, atheism doubles among Generation Z, and it's just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And all of that's a lot of it. A lot of it is because of, I think we're more susceptible to manipulation without God. And that's very common for dictators, and not really claiming anyone to be a dictator here, but in the past, communism, dictators, they typically rule by religion. So you You can't really get religion into schools, but you can get Black Lives Matter. You can get LGBTQ. So I think there's people that are really good people that are, identify as that. But the cause has been manipulated. Wow, still a lot of people. What are y'all doing up this late? Get to bed. I'm just joking. Thanks for hanging out, man. This is fun. Spicy Peach 2. Fauci screamed on CNN, "I did not say close those schools." And then the world showed the clip of him saying it. He said so many things, man. The Fauci versus Fauci is crazy. Eddie Sanchez, thanks for stopping by. I was a friend of show, says Portland Andy lives in the Lion's Den. Yes. Yes. If you don't know that Carrie Lake did win. Carrie Lake is that B. She's really great. Fire. People liked it. We got a Tim Pool fan, Ryan. So you're definitely a Tim Pool fan. The droplets. I can't. I'm not an impression person. He's actually really good. That dude is talented. Plays guitar. Knows his recall is off the chains. He can do pretty good impressions. That dude is talented, man. You can't find a random person that can do what Tim Pool does. Droplets. He hasn't done it in a while. When him and Seamus are on and they do the player back and forth, man, it is so funny. Fauci is, call him like a evil garden gnome. That dude is crazy. Yeah, I think Andy Ngo moved to London. I don't think he's anywhere near Portland. He better not. I recommend it. Like, bruh, don't go back there. Don't go back there for another book or whatever, man. It's not even worth it. Did you start that? The droplets. Classic line from Fauci. Fauci's all over the place. He's talking about, he recently was talking about he didn't say the quote dark winter, but a dark fall. He's talking about the fall time again. And there's rumors that Kathy Hochul wants to mandate that thing for school-age children. Yes, Kate and Maria, it is officially, I think it's officially announced. Yeah, it's officially announced. She did win. There was some scary moments there. Early in the actual primary night, 2 nights ago at this point, she was down. But luckily, I was watching Charlie Kirk and Jack Posovic. They were breaking it down. They were like, hey, there's hundreds of thousands, I think it was over 200,000 of these votes that were same-day drop-off and a same-day vote that Carrie Lake destroyed on. She won every county. What's happening in Maricopa County? I have no idea. It's a mess. They got messes in other counties too. Saw they ran out of ballots in one of those counties. Forgot the name of it. Begins with a P. Ryan said they're trying to make dong COVID a thing. I hope we can laugh at each other and laugh at this. I hope people don't take that the wrong way, and of course they will. Tucker Carlson famously recently, I don't know who made it up, but somebody on his show or whatever, slong COVID. I think that is by far the best one. Spicy Pete says, cartel super rich kids still drifting in Kmart parking lot, and Portland cops are forced to look the other way. Yeah. Eric Shantes says, damn shame Gloom Tube got shut down during the summer of love. Let me know. I'll answer any question that you want right now. Just chilling, hanging out. I'll probably hang out for another 5 minutes or so. At the end of the day, I'm always thinking about what's the next video. I haven't even edited the video from 2 videos ago. And then the news cycle goes so fast, I'm like, that video's done. I want to do a Breonna Taylor one. We'll see if I'm able to put my thoughts together on that. I'm very knowledgeable on the stories of what happened from when the police arrived at the residence, but I do want to research some alleged lies that they said that they made in obtaining the warrant. But if you don't know, the DOJ authorized or they charged the 4 cops, basically. So these are federal. This is what was going to happen to Chauvin under George Floyd if he was found not guilty. The feds were good. The feds were right there to swoop him up immediately. It looks to be politics, of course, but I'll talk about that. I'm probably going to still be talking about Kari Lake. They were really scared about Kari Lake. A lot of hit pieces coming out. The Washington Post had a hit piece. I have not even read this yet. So you're kind of seeing me do show prep live. I like to kind of read through it and then I love playing. I really like the Washington Post has this audio thing, and more people are doing it, where I can just listen to it and wash dishes. I don't have to sit down and read it like the newspaper. But I have not read this one. This is the first I know I want to read it, but this is the first I've seen it.
This opinion piece was written by Greg Sargent. The Trumpists are winning. Here are 3 hidden reasons to fear them. As the noxious dust settles from this week's GOP primaries, some big storylines are coming into view. The Trumpists are ascendant, and in their hands, the threat of Trumpism will far outlast Donald Trump himself.
So what they're trying to do here, and I'm just doing this on the fly, I have not read this yet, using the word Trump, Trumpist, MAGA, ultra MAGA, dark MAGA, they're trying to make populism bad. Reread this sentence or this paragraph as the populists are ascendant, and in their hands the threat of populism will far outlast Donald Trump himself. The context of that paragraph completely flips on its head. That's why they have to language is important. The context to that completely flips upside down. You say the Trumpists are ascendant, that sounds like you're in a cult. You say the populists are ascendant, that sounds like you are just a common person rising on up. That's how powerful verbiage is.
The Trumpists in question are Republicans who won nominations for positions such as governor and secretary of state in critical swing states. The alarming truth is this: many of them deny the legitimacy of President Biden's 2020 victory, even as they are seeking positions of control over the certification of future presidential elections.
What they're scared about is state power. Arizona, if they have everyone that won their primary move on, if they had them all move on, they would have, basically you would say that that state would be controlled by MAGA, which is just another word for populist for me. That's what would have happened. So if you're looking at Arizona, Kari Lake, Governor, Blake Masters, Senate, Mark Fincham, Secretary of State, Abraham Hamadeh for AG, they're scared of that. 4-piece, they have a lot of power in Arizona. Federal government can't do much in Arizona.
But the reality of the threat this poses keeps getting lost in euphemisms. There's an unwillingness in the media to state the true nature of their project in plain, blunt, clear terms. These Republicans include the following. In Arizona, Kari Lake, who's closing in on the gubernatorial nomination, has said she wouldn't have certified Biden's 2020 victory in the state. Mark Fincham, the nominee for Secretary of State, was involved in Trump's fake electors scheme and has pushed for the state legislature to have the authority to reject election outcomes. In Nevada, Secretary of State nominee Jim Marchant participated in the fake electors scheme and has said he wouldn't have certified Biden's victory. In Pennsylvania, gubernatorial nominee Doug Mastriano is a full-blown insurrectionist who helped lead Trump's effort to overturn his loss and endorsed the appointment of presidential electors regardless of the popular vote.
Yep. So I think they're going full blown because was he there in J6? Was he the one that was there? Yeah, I think so. So they're trying to go stronger on him. So they're saying that there's reasons to fear them because of that. So they continue to fail to listen to the people. So I probably won't go that angle. I'm not really feeling that for a video, but that's what I do. I kind of go through stuff and see what I'm really, the Breonna Taylor one is probably one I really want to dig into. So you'll probably see me do a video on that. Because that's an angle where they use black skin or Breonna Taylor to get us to divide us, basically. If it's based on fact and truth, I'm fine with it. But it's not, the case wasn't what it's portrayed to be. Teacher shortage. There's a teacher shortage out there. I'm going to read that article. Alex Jones. I got to look and see what's going on. There's only one channel that's allowed, Law and Crime, to stream the Alex Jones trial. So I don't know if I can use clips. I don't know if I even want to talk about the trial. You've got to see the clips. Anybody watching the trial? You've got, well, you could watch it on replay. I think it's live too. Alex Jones is something else though.
Allegation that government officials are aiding in pedophilia, child trafficking, and the grooming of children, right?
You mean like what Jeffrey Epstein did with the Clintons?
Alex Jones. So I think he's going to be all right. They're hemming him up. I don't know what his financial situation is. He got to pay $4 million to one family. Yeah, so Ryan has been watching it. Ray, what's up, man? You came through. I'm just about to be out. But thanks for coming through. Yeah, I got to hit you up, Ray. Figure out a time for us to connect. But yeah, the feds charged the cop there's a cop that lied on the warrant application allegedly. So I don't know. I have to read that part. I am not familiar with. I am familiar with most of the story beyond that. If you want to go to an expert, Officer Tatum is great on the Breonna. He was well ahead on the Breonna Taylor stuff. Other than that, I'm trying to think what's on my mind. Carrie Lake. We talked about Ron DeSantis today. Brittany Griner is still on my mind, but I already did my take on that. I really don't have any more unique take on it. My take on Brittany Griner, if you don't know, I can actually play that real quick. I think if you haven't seen this take from me, if you have, then it's a short clip. I think MAGA should support her release. Let me play the clip here. Because there's a lot of people. So the angle that I'm coming from with Brittany Griner is I want MAGA, the populism, to stop being misconstrued as Trumpism. And maybe you could say I'm at fault by doing the MAGA stuff, but because you really want to say it's populism to humanize it. I'm not as worried about Brittany Griner as it is the right thing to do, but worrying about her is secondary to the opportunity to me for it's the right thing to do. I don't want to do anything that's wrong just for humanizing MAGA, but that's where I'm coming from. we have a great opportunity right here, right now. And I'm talking to MAGA. I was reading the New York Post today. They were describing J6 as an insurrection, a violent insurrection. If you don't, and it's obviously nonsense, if you don't want people to misconstrue or buy that, because there's a lot of people who believe that, you've got to sacrifice something. You've got to reach out, even to people that have shown that they hate you because they don't even know you, like Brittany Griner. Even though they've shown that, this is an opportunity for MAGA to say, Joy Reid, I'm MAGA and I agree with you. Brittany Griner should be home. What's going on with that? That's what needs to happen in these moments. And I think most of MAGA would agree she needs to be home. That's the moment where you can stand up and you can humanize the populism of MAGA. When they try to label J6 as an insurrection, people will look at it and say, wait a second, MAGA actually stepped up for Brittany Griner even though they knew she wasn't really rolling with them like that. I don't know if I want to look at it as an insurrection or not. That's the sacrifice that needs to be made. I think most people on this channel would agree that Brittany Griner needs to be home. Yeah, some cannabis oil. Come on, man. We can't. On some cannabis oil being played as a political pawn, 9.5 years. Can't even speak the language. Didn't even know what was going on in the trial. You can blame her all you want, but I'm America first. And she probably would not like me. And I don't hate her. I don't know her. But she wouldn't like my philosophy. And I would say she still needs to be home. That should be the take, to me, from populists. Now, you want to say, well, there's people who are locked up here over drugs charges. That's a separate issue. I agree. Marijuana should be legal. Period. Legal. I think it should be legal everywhere, but it's not. So I understand. I don't want special treatment. Even if it wasn't a famous person, I would want them back home too. America has to make a statement that you can't do that. If there's like some other beef popping off, we have a proxy situation going on with them. If there's some beef popping off, you probably want to let them go back home. So I don't know how it gets done. That's not my job. Do I have to do every goddamn thing for you, politicians? My job is to push you to figure it out. I'm not privy to everything. I don't know. I don't have an answer there, but I can say she should be home. Is trading some drug dealer guy back the right thing? I'm not sure. I have to read about that. I don't know off the top of my head how bad is it. It's got to be apples to apples. So if they don't, I don't know what, but Sean says, yeah, but she's not in America and she noodle love its complete ignorance. Yeah, she's at fault, but so was LaMelo Ball, who got hemmed up in China, A$AP Rocky hemmed up in Sweden. Trump got them both out. It was at both their faults. I don't... Salta Army MAGA nanas. I would say she didn't unlive anybody or something crazy like that. It's cannabis oil. You figure it out, bring her back home. To me, that's not a complicated situation. But yep. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I'm trying to think if there's anything else going on. Still, the stuff with China, Taiwan, that stuff's not over yet. We could be on the brink of some serious stuff, putting everybody's lives in danger. That might have to just be a rant. I don't see a lot of people speaking out against it. Got to speak out against it. Can't let it just happen like that. There's still fallout from the Nancy Pelosi trip. So we've got all that going on. Still got the pandemic stuff. You've got the, whatever you want to call the monkeypox. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Tesla's The Tesla community is acting a fool. If you want to know how Tesla stock is going, just go online, go to Twitter or something. When Tesla stock is going well, and they just voted to approve a stock split, 3-to-1 split, it doesn't change the value. It's just, Amazon's done it, quite a few. Apple's done it a lot. If Apple didn't split their stock, last I checked, they were over $26,000 a share. So it's just an optical thing, but it does help the stock. So Twitter community is going crazy because there's a lot of people in Twitter community that have a lot of money in Tesla. They got a lot of money in Tesla. I got a little bit in Tesla myself, so that's good to see. Lucid Motors, to me, they are a fraud. When I say fraud, they're not a company designed to scale. So that's a topic I have not talked about on the channel in a while. So many other things going on. Yeah, so good. Thanks a lot for chilling, hanging out. I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Peace.
This news story was written by Perry Stein. FBI arrests former Puerto Rico governor on bribery charges. Wanda Vázquez-Garst allegedly took bribes from a banker and a former FBI agent to fund her failed election bid. Federal law enforcement agents on Thursday arrested former Puerto Rico Governor Wanda Vázquez-Garst, Republican, charging her in a bribery scheme that was allegedly aimed at financing her failed 2020 gubernatorial campaign, the Justice Department said. Officials said that while Vázquez-Garst was governor in 2019 and 2020, she allegedly took campaign donations from a banker, Julio Martin Herrera Vellutini, and a former FBI agent, Mark Rossini, who was consulting for the bank. Herrera Vellutini's bank was under investigation by the regulatory agency that oversees Puerto Rico's financial institutions. He and Rossini allegedly paid more than $300,000 to consultants who supported Vázquez-Garst's campaign. In exchange for the campaign donations, the governor allegedly said she would appoint a new commissioner to the regulatory agency of Herrera Vellutini's choosing. In February 2020, Vázquez-Garst demanded the resignation of agency head. She appointed a new director a few months later, according to the federal indictment. Vázquez-Garst, Herrera Vellutini and Rossini are each charged with conspiracy, federal programs bribery and wire fraud. If convicted on all counts, they face a maximum of 20 years in prison. Vázquez-Garst told reporters after a court appearance Thursday that she was innocent. "I have not committed any crime," she said. "I assure you that they have committed a great injustice against me." Attempts to reach representatives and defense attorneys for Herrera Vellutini and Rossini were unsuccessful. The alleged bribery scheme rose to the highest levels of the Puerto Rican government, threatening public trust in our electoral processes and institutions of governance, Assistant Attorney General Kenneth A. Polite, Jr., who heads the Justice Department's Criminal Division, said in a statement Thursday. "No one is above the rule of law." Rossini, the former FBI agent, pleaded guilty more than a decade ago to accessing a sensitive FBI database for personal purposes. He was sentenced to 1 year of probation. The federal charges were the latest political scandal to hit Puerto Rico this year. 9 mayors in the island territory have faced federal corruption charges in 2022, according to the Associated Press. The Justice Department said Thursday that 2 other people, John Blakeman, a political consultant who worked on Vázquez-Garst's campaign, and Francis Diaz, president of the bank that Herrera Vellutini owned, have pleaded guilty to participating in the former governor's bribery scheme. They face up to 5 years in prison. Vázquez-Garst corporate America isn't certain it can afford to be woke anymore. National Review. Throughout the year, we've seen small but curious signs that corporate America is less interested in being woke than it was a few years ago. In May, Meta, formerly Facebook, said that discussing abortion openly at work has a heightened risk of creating a hostile work environment, so it had taken the position that we would not allow open discussion. Progressive activists were surprised to see so many companies offering muted and generic statements about the Supreme Court's recent abortion decision. Earlier this summer, Netflix co-CEO Ted Sarandos effectively told his employees that it was time to stop complaining about programming that offended them. If you'd find it hard to support our content breadth, Netflix may not be the best place for you. New Warner Brothers CEO David Zaslav is reportedly meeting with Harry Potter creator J.K. Rowling, indicating he's not interested in complaints about her views on trans issues. A woke philosophy inevitably requires a business to prioritize something ahead of turning a profit. It also often requires alienating some portion, perhaps a large portion, of its potential customer base. A company has to hire all of those special executives to coordinate diversity and inclusion and to make donations to all of the appropriate progressive groups and causes. A woke CEO needs a financial cushion to enact all of those changes. The CEO of Google's parent company told staff last month to work with greater urgency, sharper focus, and more hunger than we've shown on sunnier days. Meta Platforms Incorporated CEO Mark Zuckerberg said in late July that the Facebook owner must operate with greater intensity, and I expect us to get more done with fewer resources. An engineering leader at the company also recently told managers to identify and push out low performers. Beyond tech, CEOs are warning of tougher times, while others are telling employees to reconsider spending on trips, business meals, or even corporate swag such as t-shirts and coffee mugs. The shift in messaging reflects increasing anxiety in the C-suite about where the economy is headed. A survey released in June by the Conference Board, a business research firm, found the majority of CEOs think a recession is coming or already here. Despite predictions that woke corporate America was here to stay, woke and social justice virtue signaling may be turning into an unaffordable luxury for many companies. The woke customer base is just too small, and the non-woke or anti-woke customer base is just too large to ignore or antagonize. Woke employees who insist their company's leadership take outspoken and controversial stances can be denied, and shown the door if they are sufficiently disruptive or unproductive. If explicitly progressive institutions find young woke employees to be a bunch of whiny, entitled, insufferable, grievance-obsessed troublemakers, how sympathetic should America's businesses be? These employees were hired to do a job, not to transform the company into an instrument of political change. Netflix and Warner Brothers want to attract the biggest audiences possible, and need to do so in order to stay in business. Every company wants its workers focused on their work. Not endless infighting over whether the company is sufficiently devoted to some ideological agenda. Much as it galls me to praise New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick, his simple slogan and philosophy, "Do your job," is likely a key ingredient in the team's lasting success. Everyone involved with the team has exceptional clarity about what their job is, and what they're supposed to do in any given circumstance. Doing the job is the priority. Everything else is extraneous. If you're a soda company, your job is to sell soda. If you're a streaming service, your job is to attract and keep an audience, preferably a large and growing one. If you're a social media company, your job is to attract and keep users. Changing American society or its laws is not part of the job. Get woke, go broke was always an oversimplification. If it was that simple, no woke institution would be around anymore. But it is likely that enacting a woke philosophy at a company requires the kind of financial cushion and stability that only a thriving economy can provide. Ironically, runaway inflation and bad Biden economic policies are slowly strangling corporate America's ability to indulge the woke agenda.